Today on To My Way of Thinking, we're going to, as we always do, we talk with the tree shakers and policymakers and those persons who seek to make this world a better place for all of us. Today, we're going to talk with the Jacksonville City Councilman for District 2, Al Ferraro. Al has decided to make a change in his political career and his time, and he's decided to run for mayor of the City of Jacksonville. Thanks for joining us, Al.
Thank you, Fred. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, it's our pleasure. Let's get right to it, as I always say. What is the state of our county and our state? What is the state of things in our county and our state and our city?
So our city is looking up. We've got a lot of nice things that are going up. We've got a downtown that's moving forward, but we have a lot of challenges in our city. I know you asked me a couple of things that were important to me. And one of the biggest things that I have issues with that I want to see better in the whole city is crime. I think the crime has gotten really out of hand at all different levels. And the state of that is to where, you want jobs that are moving into the city, and we do have that happening. We have development, but crime and our infrastructure, those are the two main things that I think are the most challenging. Of course, people are interested in jobs, and we can get into a little bit of what I think that we could do on hiring a lot of our hometown youngsters that we want to get jobs. But I would say probably the state of our city, really, crime is probably the biggest pressing issue, and of course, the high cost of everything.
Well, since you're touching there earlier, I was going to come to this later, but let's deal with it now. What's the mayor's role in crime? Is it just to fund it, or is because we've got a sheriff, and of course on the ballot, same time you're going to be on the ballot again, will be the election of a new sheriff. As we have this discussion now, we're running up on a special election, but
sure,
when you come up on the ballot, it'll be the real deal for an extended term for the sheriff. So what's the mayor's role in it? Is it just to fund the issue?
So I think different times require different actions and looking into things. For example, now that crime has really been a problem, is with the sheriff's office, it's usually a reactionary of what happens after it. And what I want to do as a mayor is work with the sheriff's office. A lot of the people who are running for sheriff, I've worked with as a council member. And what we've done that has worked successfully in our district is one of the safest areas of town, is having the police working with our community. We have the Sheriff's Watch programs that are extremely active. And as a mayor, of what can I do? Going into some of the areas that are hit the hardest with the murders, going out and breaking that code of silence. That is a huge, huge problem that we have in our city. It's something I have been continually doing, going and getting people to trust and understand that if we can break the code of silence and get rid of these bad people in our community, that this would be something that would help out our community by doing this. And being the highest elected official, being in there and having the trust of the people that are seeing this, that are afraid to say something because of retaliation or something happening to their families or their businesses, by having the highest elected official in there, knowing that they can trust and they can see the crime going away, because we would be actively working to get rid of these bad folks. That's something I've done in my district. As my career went on with city council, I started doing this throughout the city, and there is real progress that can be made if people trust who they've got in office that are going to get rid of the crime, and they actually see people out there doing it. You can't do this kind of stuff if you're going to just be in the office downtown. You have to be amongst the community, and that goes with everything else that's coming through.
So am I hearing you that simply adding more money to the sheriff's budget is not a major deterrent, not a major deterrent to lowering the crime rate or the issues in neighborhoods?
So our city is growing, and we're growing by thousands of people moving here every month. So when you have more people, you do need to have more law officers. However, the point that I'm trying to make is that a lot of the crime is being caused by groups or gangs in the city, and people are afraid to say something and speak up. And I understand why, because they've come up to me and said this. But if you have people who, as somebody who makes legislation, if you have that along with the executive branch and going into some of these areas that have been just devastated, this is another tool in the toolbox of fixing these.
Well, I'm still puzzled. So you would not seek to cut any budget that the new sheriff would bring into office, but you would be looking for additional crime fighting tools that the sheriff may be offering. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, it's not just crime fighting; it's job opportunities and other things that we have to do. So to answer your first question, I'm not looking to cut the budget of the sheriff's office. To be clear, I'm not. But what I am looking to do is methods of being able to get the community along with the police to be able to make our community safer, no matter where they're at. And as the elected mayor, what you want to do is you want to be able to trust that the person in office there is going to make sure by being there. You know, if you are in a place where you're having crime and you have somebody that you can come and speak with to where you live, that has been a huge game changer as far as it is in my district and when I've gone out to different other parts of town.
So I'm going to give you a softball question here. How do you view let's go back to the mayor's office, which you want to go to. Is it your job mainly to build or to manage? We've had every mayor in the last 30 years has found a way to build something before he leaves office. And there's been some management of things, but a whole lot of tearing down and building has been going on over the last 30 years with just about every mayor, I think, with the exception of possibly one. I don't think that John Payton tore down very much during his time in office, surprisingly. So how do you view the job, to build or manage?
I think both, actually both. There's a lot of infrastructure. There's a lot of things that you want to make sure that people who are managing parts of our city, whether it's garbage or core functions, yard waste, we talked about crime, you want to make sure as a consolidated city, as the top person in charge, that you're managing all these departments and things are getting done. A lot of times, if something's not getting done, a lot of times we have problems with changing that. And with homelessness, all the different things that we see that are problems in the city, we have to look at all the different things to see, are they working? Are we getting return in investment from our taxpayers putting money in? And if things are working, we need to move on forward with increasing that. And if we find things that are not working, we need to get rid of them or change in different directions. So I would say both.
Let's go downtown, which continues to be a focus of activities for just about every mayor. Again, once he gets in there, even though we have that downtown investment authority, ultimately the side discussions happen around city council and the Jack's chamber, and certainly it has to get a nod from the mayor's office. So here's one you might not have not gotten before, but I've asked this to a number of folks. The inmates at the jail have a great view for the 4th of July and New Year's Eve of all the fireworks that are taking place. We've torn down Berkman 2. I understand a new developer is looking to put in a 41-story spire there. Next to it is going in a new museum of science and history. The USS Orlick is going to be docked there as a Navy museum. And of course,
Four Seasons, all that.
Four Seasons, all that down the street. Should we move the jail or leave it where it is?
So that's the $1 billion question there. So first, the condition of the jail is in poor condition. A lot of people don't realize that we have a jail that really needs a lot of revamping. The security of it. So I work with the sheriff's office and ride with them. I try to do it once a month. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we go down there and we hear that it's understaffed and the building really needs a lot of repairs. I don't think it's probably the best location for where it's at. And also from the repairs that are going to need to be done to it. I'm not an expert on it, but I understand there's quite a bit that needs to be done to it. So that is probably some big ticket item that has to be done. And where are we going to have the location put? So I am very interested in looking into that.
Are you looking to wait until you get some feedback from it? In my conversations with at least 4 of the 5 so the sheriff's candidates, believe it or not, 4 of them were in favor of moving it already. I was a little surprised, but even the leading candidates are pretty much in favor of moving it. But I think they're waiting to receive, once they get in office, whoever it is gets in office, they're waiting to receive the official request. So you're going to wait for the request before you take any other stand on it?
No. What I'm saying is my understanding of it is the building is in desperate need of repairs. So part of it is picking and choosing where that's going to go as well. So I can see where a new jail would be important to do, but that's not something a lot of people are interested in right now to talk about. That is something that I would be interested in doing. The core functions are probably the most important thing to go forward, but this is something to look at to find out what the costs are going to be, what the challenges are to move it, and where the place is going to be, because a lot of people aren't going to want this in their backyard.
All right. The budget. Of all the things you have to do, the budget is core. Every year it comes around. Every year it has to be done. Every year it has to be presented. You've already mentioned a couple of priorities for it, but what are you looking at? What's the first budget for the Ferraro administration going to look like?
So core functions are my most important thing. No matter where I'm going, we hear potholes, we hear all the damage that's done. I would like to focus more on that and the crime. Those are the 2 biggest things. I also want to do with JEA when we have the tank phase, the septic tank phase out. One of the things I would think that would be really important to do is that I don't like the way we're doing it right now. I would rather have a section of JEA that's doing the septic tank phase out that would be part of JEA, to where we do it on a larger scale, where we actually hire people in our city, get them put on there, because we're talking about decades of work that needs to be done. This isn't something that's going to be done in 7 to 10 years. This is something that's going to go on and on for quite a while. So the septic tank phase out, I would want to make that work into the JEA, to where we had a division that was doing that on a regular basis. I'd like to see what we can do on the crime part that I've already explained a little bit about, the jobs, but the core functions of our roads and infrastructure. To me, that is one of the most important things, because no matter what party you are, no matter what area of town, people don't want to have studies on whether their roads are doing well or not. People can drive and they can tell that they're hitting massive potholes. So I would like to focus a lot more of our budget. And I know we did a lot of that right now, but I'd like to do more of that throughout the city. We talk about developing downtown, and that's a great thing. But the infrastructure of our roads, and I don't mean just the potholes, I mean widening, putting in new roads, infrastructure, lighting, sidewalks, all these different things. We have a gigantic city, and we need to be investing more into that. So I'd like to see more private ventures going into the downtown area, and we see it growing with the amount of development of housing that's going down there. But a lot of people who don't live in the downtown area and the surrounding parts of the city, they want to see something really happening, just like what we talk about in downtown. They want to see that in the other parts of the areas of town, the north side, the west side, even in the core area. Those are important things to do. So those would be my big main focuses.
Are you going to keep the resiliency office that the current mayor's put in play? And are we going to see the kind of completed work that needs to be done in preparation for the next major hurricane that comes through here? We've had the discussions. We still haven't seen the work completed.
So the district I represent is the highest flood area that we have, District 2. And one of the things that we did for resiliency is we tried to limit the amount of development that happens in our district. We actually put the largest overlay in the city of Jacksonville to make sure that we don't have overdevelopment in some of these areas. I would be interested in finding out how well that works. And what I would say is, if something is working, if we have departments and department heads that are working, and we can show that where we're going with resiliency, that it's working, I don't mind leaving things in place and adapting to them. If they're not working, I'm willing to put out a change and do something. I will tell you that in District 2, I have been against some of the development that's going out there. A lot of developers really are not pleased with me. But I will tell you that the areas that I fought that I did not want developing in, the problems that we have in the surrounding areas that people have lived there for decades and generations, they're having incredible flooding problems, along with some of the new developments that have been put in. You may not know, the city will not take them on because they're having flooding issues. So I am very, very interested in seeing what we can do on that. When I came into office in 2015, when we had the parade of hurricanes in 2016 and 17, I had areas of my district that you couldn't even drive down the center parts of the road because they were underwater. So I am really concerned with what's happening with the resiliency, but not just for the flooding issues, for the filtering of our waterways. I was also the waterways chair for many, many years, to where I can see the importance of the water quality and keeping our river operating to where we don't have these flooding issues.
Well, I mean, we always get the fear of what's going to happen. And we've been fortunate that since as you said, the run of hurricanes that we had some time back, we haven't had as much of that. We haven't had a bad case here. We came close to it this time, but we got missed with the Hurricane Ian. But the fact still remains that the flooding issues that happen in San Marco are still fresh in the minds of a lot of people. The flooding issue that happened on Bay Street downtown is still fresh in the minds of the residents who spend thousands of dollars a month to maintain homes there. It's still fresh in the minds of the folks on Ken Knight Drive on the north side who have to suffer through this and fear this all the time, and quite frankly should have been moved out of there. Are we gonna get this finally moving to get this flooding under control? The Bahamas didn't fear the hurricane when it came by them. Why? Because they had restructured their buildings, they fortified the landmass all around the island, and they didn't have anything like what happened in Cuba and Haiti and Puerto Rico. Are we going to be in a position, is your administration going to be in a position to help us get to that point?
Absolutely. So one of the reasons that San Marco did not flood is we did have rising water. And what happens is sometimes it's not just the rains, it's the rains from other south of our city where the river starts filling up and actually coming up through the drains. And we had pumps that we had just built and put into there. These are things that we need to continue through our city. We do have flooding areas that are going to have that, and we do need to harden them. But the other thing that's really important as being the mayor of the city is that you don't want to be able to put new development in areas that we know are going to flood or we're going to have these problems. And we don't want to cause tributaries or other waterways to be dammed up or overutilized to where they can't handle the runoff of this. We've seen this throughout the county in different developments where we have gone and developed on areas that we knew would be a problem. And that's something that we got to really look at moving forward with the city, because when you do that, you're not just going to harm that one development. It's going to have a trickle effect all the way down the stream, and it may cause areas that haven't flooded in the past to be part of that problem. So to answer your question, yeah, I want to see about what we can do to have our high resiliency kept up in the city, but also looking at as new development comes in, how that's going to affect it. Because if you're fixing one thing and then you're putting something else out there that's going to cause another problem, you really haven't fixed something. You just moved it into a different area.
Mm. All right, let's go to a sensitive topic that has been in the city council now for almost 3 years and seems to get bumped up. We've got the mayor who's proposed some money. We've got a city councilman who's proposed some money, but we've got a city council that has simply not taken a stand on it. It's still going to linger when you become mayor. Confederate monuments. You've got some bills there in city council, but it appears that this is going to hang over till the next mayor comes into office. Confederate monuments. Are we going to get the rest of them taken down, or are we simply going to let this sit, or are we going to hand off to a referendum for the citizens of Jacksonville? We got one monument that's still lingering over there in Springfield. That's the last major bone of contention. What's your feeling about these Confederate monuments? Should we take them down? Should we put them someplace else where they can be memorialized? Or should we simply write a new plaque on there so it can be contextualized?
So I've been very clear about it. I don't believe any historical markers, monuments should be taken down. I've been very clear. And I know that this is a very divisive issue amongst a lot of people. I simply don't want to take down historical monuments. My idea was to build things up in this city. I had built a park. I've had 2 parks built in my district since I've been elected. I am all about building things up, and I have no problem talking about the good and the bad. And I think that's really important in our city. I think that if you ignore it, you're going to repeat history again. So I am all for leaving up our markers, our historical statues, all the different things. I have taken a stance to that. And you're right. It has been around and been around and been around. I put forth the bill for people to vote on it, how they felt about it, because I've heard it and it's constantly dividing our city. There are so many things that are important to our city about we're having drugs and we're having prostitution, we're having crime, we're having all these other things, bad roads, core functions that need to be taken care of. And what happens is you have these things that come in and it simply just divides our city. And it takes our eye off of what we should be doing to move our city forward, to make our communities better. I know that the argument would be taking them down would be better to some people, but that is my point of view on it.
When you're running, one of the beauties of running for mayor this coming spring is that you don't really have to worry that much about your party. It's going to be about who gets the most votes, how you're able to appeal to people across the county to get the most votes to at least get you into the top 2 for the runoff. And that's going to be the key here. But you're registered as a Republican versus Democrat. What's your message to everybody? I think you've given a lot of it here already, but what are you doing to separate yourself out from the pack? As a Republican versus that, the registration rolls are about the same, but you're going to have to appeal to everybody. And one of the things that I've always found about running for office is that the first thing is you got to get people to like you.
Right.
So,
like plus you,
tell us how you separate yourself.
Yeah. So people got to not just like you; they got to believe that what you say you're going to do. Mm-hmm. And they have to be able to think that, hey, look, this person's actually going to be able to do it. So I was actually an independent most of my life. I ended up changing to be Republican. You can't run in this city as an independent. And a lot of people don't realize that the Republican hierarchy, the people who run the Republican Party do not want me in office. I'm not their chosen person. I look at things that what's best for our community. What I have is a moral compass that directs me into doing what I think is right for everything that I do, whether it's something to do with roads and infrastructure, whether it's fighting the internet cafes that came in, whether it's statues and monuments, whatever it is, I have a moral compass that leads me into what I'm doing. And I always feel like if you do what's right and people see you and they know and trust and believe you're going to do what you're going to say and you're going to do what's best for the community. And that's what I have always tried to do as a council member. It is something that I believe wholeheartedly. I think if people get to know you and they see where you're going and why you want to do this, to me, I've got a lot of Democrats that support me too. It's not like only the Republicans support me. I have a great amount of Democrats that support me and they believe me. And I'm going to do everything possible to make this city great for them and their families, to make it safe, to where, look, you and I, no matter what party we are, we want probably the same things. We want to have a safe community for our families. We don't want to have people that come into office that are wasting our tax dollars and not spending it the way they are. Whether you're rich or poor, you don't want that. You want to see somebody who lives up to what they say they're going to do. And what I'm trying to do is get my message out. As a council member, I was very strong in my district, and people know that if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I need to get that message out citywide.
Who is Al Ferraro?
Al Ferraro. So Al Ferraro has owned a lawn maintenance company since 1986. I'm an extremely hardworking person. I know what it takes to run a business. I know how hard it is to make a dollar. I've worked with my church. I've worked with the city council, all the different groups that I can think of Mad Dads, Family of Slain Children, just different groups around town. I try to do food drives, toy drives. I try to do things that are for the community, not for a district, not for a particular part of town. I'm trying to do the things that were instilled to me by my parents when they came. My grandparents came to this country, and they had a lot of help on just becoming citizens of this country. My dad was a first generation born here, and he worked with veterans, and it's just been instilled to me of service to our community and what you can do. And I love it. I love our city. I want to make it a better place. And Al Ferraro never thought he was going to run for this position. This is not something I had as a boyhood dream. I'm concerned with the corruptions that happen in our city. And Al Ferraro wants to get out here and say, look, I have been trusted throughout my community for working for a long time. I think I can do this job. I think I can eradicate a lot of the corruption in the city. And if you put me into office, I'm going to do what I did as a councilman. I'm going to work very hard. I'm going to answer to people. I'm going to watch over your dollars. And I will be the guy who's up early in the morning and late at night working for you.
You partially answered the last question here, but I heard a word here that I haven't heard a bit that much from mayoral candidates. You want to stop the corruption in this city. So yes. Again, why Al and why now?
So, when you become entrenched into the politics, you get to see how it works. You get to see what works and you see what doesn't. And it's been very upsetting to me to see people that I work with that are more interested in lining their pockets than doing what they've been hired for. One of the things that upsets me is when people get up on a stage or in front of an audience and they say whatever they need to say to get into office. As soon as they get into office, they do something completely different. Even if you disagree with what they said, if they get up and they promise you that they're going to do something, they do something different. The amount of trust, it bothers me on that. It bothered me to see our JEA not just try to get sold twice, but actually be put on the market to be sold a third time that a lot of people aren't aware of. These things are detrimental to our community, and it will keep us from growing if we go in these directions. How can you go and say that you want to stop crime and things like that in our city when you're allowing elected officials to do this and get away with trying to do things that are harmful for generations to our city? So being somebody who's seen this, I said, hey, I can do something about this, and I'm going to do something about this. And that's why I'm running for office. I want to make our city better. I want to fight this corruption. I'm going to go after it, and I'm going to get rid of it. Just like I did with the internet cafes, I'll do that in our government.
My. I will place you in the tree shakers column, not because you own a lawn service, but because you're looking to make a change. And you mentioned the word corruption at least about 10 times here, which is something I haven't heard any of the other candidates do. So,
well, what do you think? Do you think that we don't have corruption in the city?
Well, of course we have corruption.
Right.
We're a big city, major city. I mean, we've got a lot going on. There's a lot of money to be made. Right. One of the things that a city councilman once told me when he was running for mayor back in the 80s, and he cited it. He pointed toward one particular area where you can make good money, and that is every time you have construction going on, because it never ends. It's a great license to steal money. He told me, Fred, it's a great because we always have. There's never going to be construction. There's always going to be construction. That means there's always an avenue to make more money and get it on the side. So, and he was a city councilman, and he felt strongly like you did.
I won't take on city contracts because I never want that to ever be the doubt in somebody's mind.
Yeah, well, he was talking about construction specifically because it never ends. It never ends.
I understand.
Al Ferraro.
Yes, sir.
Councilman, District 2. He's running for mayor of the city of Jacksonville, the county of Duval. He will be on the ballot come spring. It has been a pleasure speaking with you today. And as we get closer to that big day, I hope we may be able to get it squeezed in one more conversation. But I certainly wish you well in your efforts, and I appreciate you joining us today.
God bless you, sir, and your family. And thank you for having me on.
Same here.